What's going on, guys? We have two guests here. You guys are very familiar with Sam. Sam was actually the first guy on my channel, so shout out to Sam.
Hey.
And we got Juice, who's going to be a reoccurring. By the way, Juice has a YouTube channel.
Hey.
You want to do a little quick intro for that?
My name is Juice, aka Juice Because. Go ahead and follow me. Make sure you get him to 1,000 subscribers.
Three more.
3 more. Smash that subscribe button. Make it happen.
Alright guys, so today we're going to talk about a hot topic because a lot of you guys are transitioning from all sorts of things, students to residents, residents to jobs, P1s to P2s, whatever it may be, right? So but today we're going to talk about P3s to P4s. The first thing we're going to talk about is choice of rotations, and we just kind of free flow here. There are many considerations about choice of rotations. What are some that come to mind?
No, really, it just depends on like what path you want to go. If you already know what you want to do, say you want to go the residency route versus you want to maybe go into a more traditional retail community route, or you're just undecided, that's really going to be able to set the stage for what type of rotation really would be the best for you in your situation.
Right. I mean, when it comes to rotation types, there's a plethora to choose from. I mean, you have your really hard ones where you're in the hospital, you're doing your ICU, your critical care, ambulatory care, things like that. Then you have some more of the less critical thinking rotations out there. And then you have some that are kind of in between. So, I mean, you have a lot of different varieties to choose from. You can do like Indian Health Reservation ones, IHS, you can do a bunch of different types.
So something cool, I was just telling Sam and Juice that, you know, I was crazy when I was a P4. I did all these intensive ones, I didn't take any time off, but you know what? Something that I would highly recommend, I was just thinking about it, a lot of my friends actually did rotations abroad. Did you guys do that? Like,
I wish.
I
Just
wish,
believe me,
yeah.
you know I love to travel.
Exactly.
I wish I could do that.
pretty insane. There was like, one of my classmates did one in the Netherlands, another one did it in Germany. I was like, ooh, I wish I did that.
Yeah.
But that'd be something I'd probably recommend because, you know, if you have a whole year of intense rotations, that could be a little rough.
Right.
And that actually might help you stand out. You know, whether you're looking at, well, you know, maybe you did a medical mission somewhere. It's like, okay, well, all these people did the same standard rotation. This person went to the Netherlands, or this person did, you know, a medical mission. I mean, it makes you look very unique for sure.
Right.
And we'll talk a little bit more about some other considerations when it comes to mid-year. But let's talk about something very basic also. Like, what are some general expectations for rotations? Like, what would you recommend to a student?
I'm not gonna lie. If you were anything like me as a student, I was usually always late. So one thing I made sure I did was to be punctual, because punctuality is key when it comes to rotations. Setting that precedent, making sure that you know you're out there and you're getting there and you're on time to your rotation so that you're performing at the best of your ability. I think that was really important.
Right, and just right off what Juice is saying, I mean, even before all of that, being able to communicate with your preceptor and say, hey, I'm coming in 2 weeks.
Oh yes.
You know, just expect me to be there. Is there anything that you need me to look into before I get there? Basically establishing that rapport from the beginning, because the worst thing is somebody comes to your door and like, oh, I'm your student. It's like, okay, you know, you didn't tell me you were coming, even if you knew. Yeah, you just showed up. It's like, oh, teach me. Like, what?
Right.
I guess.
And a lot of the time, the preceptors will give you like a little like, oh, you know, make sure you park over here and arrive at like, you know, this time. So like 7 a.m. Meet me here at the cafeteria, and then we'll go from there. And I'll show you where you're going to be for the rest of the rotation.
You know, it kind of reminds me really quickly. I know there was a student that went to rotation. One of my friends didn't tell the preceptor there. Just showed up really early. Got to the clinic. Got there too early. The fire alarm went off in the building because they're not supposed to be in the building that early. So it was like, what an impression.
He tripped the fire alarm?
Tripped the alarm.
That's
so
nuts.
What an impression, right? So it's really good to reach out in advance.
Well, he definitely will be remembered.
Yeah. Fireman.
Something else with expectations, you know, kind of going off of what Sam said about, you know, reaching out to your preceptors, my school actually told me like had a template. Hey, you guys got to email them a month in advance. Let them know what's up. And so I did that. And then something else as well is, depending on what rotation it is, maybe you don't know a lot about it. Like I did a rotation in transplant. I was like, I don't know anything about transplant.
Ooh.
So I was like, I started doing readings on transplant. Get yourself familiar, because something else you want to do is you want to not only set expectations, but you want to make a good first impression. These could be potential employers in the future, potential letter of recs, lots of great networking opportunities. So we want to set a really, really good first impression.
Well, something that was kind of key for my rotations is our school actually brought in a lady named Sherry Brown, who was one of the co-authors of the RX Prep book, and she actually handed each one of us an RX Prep book for our courses.
Sure it wasn't Oprah?
No. Just believe, we paid for it. We paid for it. But, that was like a key, that was a very great resource to have during your rotations. So like you said, the pre-prep work for your rotations, that was key for my prep work, I'm not gonna lie.
The last thing you want to do is come to rotation like a blank sheet of paper saying, "Write on me." It's like the last thing you want to do.
Right.
So along the lines of expectations, what are some other things you guys would recommend to students take advantage of when they're on rotation? So I'll give you guys an example. When I did my rotations like all over the state of Florida, I didn't really stay in one place. So every place I went to, I tried to reach out to a different pharmacist in the hospital, or maybe the residency director. Like, hey, you got time to maybe like schedule a meeting over coffee, let's chat. What are some recommendations you guys have? And I started building a network while I was on rotations. I think that's one of the things I would recommend. What about you guys?
I guess for me, it's like just treating it like an interview from the jump. And so, because you never know how life will either bring you back to that institution, or maybe someone that work there might help you with another venture you're trying to go into. So, it's really being professional and working hard and giving it your best effort will typically help you out in your future. So that'd be my general recommendation, regardless of how interested you are or not in what you're doing for that period of time. Just do your best, and it might actually help you out in what you're trying to do.
And to piggyback off of what Sam and Brian said, I think that it's very important to understand that the community of pharmacy is very small. So any interaction that you have, you want to be able to put your best foot forward and make sure that you're actually interacting with everybody in a positive manner, so that when it comes time, you never know that the person that you were talking with is now a director of pharmacy at the location that you want to go to, and next thing you know, boom, or a manager at some major retail chain or some industry or whatever facet of pharmacy there is available, and you'll be able to have a best shoe in because you had a good rapport with that person. So another thing that I would definitely say is, if you don't know an answer, because you're human, you're not going to know everything, don't try to BS or don't try to makeshift an answer. Go ahead and tell that preceptor that, hey, I don't know, but I'm going to look it up, and make sure you follow up and actually look it up to give that information to them, because preceptors hate when you try to make up something and it's completely not true, So, yeah.
I have two things to say to that. The first thing is, yes, absolutely don't make things up at all. And one of my mentors was telling me, like, when we're in a room together, when I'm in this room with my preceptor, you can say whatever is on your mind, because it's okay to make mistakes, because he wants to see what you're thinking about.
Right.
So he can correct it. He was like, what led you to this answer? So if you think out loud, it's okay to think wrong. And he was like, no, this is not how you should think about it. Think about it this way, and that'll lead you down the right path. But when you're outside, you're on rounds, you're counseling patients, never just deploy an answer.
Right.
Yeah.
The second thing I want to say is an example of me doing just that. So this is what I learned. People learn from mistakes, and I remember on rounds I did exactly that. I wanted to show off. I was on rounds on internal medicine. There was a third-year fellow. There was 2 second-year medical residents, 2 med students, and an attending. And we were talking about allopurinol, and I don't remember what we were talking about. All I remember, they were talking and debating about whether or not to use it. And I was like, well, you can't use it for that. It's not FDA indicated. And I was like, I didn't know. I just made it up. I just wanted to contribute. And next thing you know, we had to get the GI fellow come by. And he was like, hey, you know, what are you guys doing? Are we going to do this or not? And then the other third year fellow was telling the GI fellow, was like, well, you know, it's not FDA indicated and stuff. You can't use that. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that's right or wrong. So it was actually wrong. And the thing is, if you are wrong about things, you know, it's important to own up to your mistakes. I went up to the fellow later. I was like, hey, you know, I don't know what's going on. It is what I said was incorrect, so just ignore that. So very important. Juice points out, don't blurt things out. Follow up.
Yeah, but also, can I just say real quick, very brief? There is a way to get to an answer that you really have no clue by piecewising it, when, you know, by step, by saying, oh well, I do know that this goes with this, and then because of this also goes with this, and therefore this could be this or this. So if you don't really know, but you have a systematic way of getting to an answer, you can show them those steps and then tell them, oh well, up to this point I don't know, so I'm going to look it up from this point forward. And then they'll actually like that because they see you kind of have some critical thinking skills.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so I mean, I think the topic of just general, what are other things students should be thinking about while they're on rotations is pretty important. Like anything else that you guys can think about of what students should be doing, maybe you want to take advantage of?
I would say make sure you have your apps ready. Like I had LexiComp on me, I had my herbal products on me, apps. So if I didn't know it then, I turn around, I'm looking it up. Like, okay, I know what it is. And so it was, I didn't have to wait long for them to get, or for people didn't have to wait long for me to give them an answer to certain kind of questions. So I felt like being mobile with my knowledge-based resources was really important.
You know, that's really interesting. I don't know if it's maybe because of are we 1 or 2 years apart, something like that?
Yeah.
But they were telling me when I was on rotations, it's you know, everyone has these apps nowadays, it's great, but then people think you're on the phone all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that's probably common nowadays to have you know.
So I think there's a difference between having it on your iPhone versus having it on a iPad. Like I had my iPad mini.
Oh yeah, the iPad.
So the iPad for some reason.
I wasn't rich like that. I wasn't bald.
Hey, of Christmas, you know. Thank you,
There you
Mom.
go.
Hey, but it was there was something about the prestige of having the iPad that was more professional.
That's true.
And if you pull it out of your coat versus you're looking at your phone and you don't know if I'm on Snapchat or I'm actually on, Micromedics.
We didn't have Snapchat back then.
When did Snapchat come out? It's
2 years?
2013?
Well, maybe, I don't know, actually.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that was I graduated at that time. So
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, didn't have that. Okay. Let's talk briefly about midyear. What are some considerations that you guys would think about in terms of rotations and midyear? And yeah, go ahead.
So I would say one of the key things when you're thinking about midyear, while you're a P3 transitioning to a P4 student, is understanding what you want to do, what your end game is, and what you want to pursue as far as a career. And from there, really scoping out different programs and looking at the different requirements that they have within their residency program and seeing if that aligns with what you want to do as far as your career choice. So that's one thing. And then network like crazy, have business cards out there ready to hand out, and also receive a lot of business cards and follow up with some emails to all the people that you actually chat with so that they leave a lasting impression and you leave a lasting impression on them as well.
So something I'd consider, which differed from a little bit from Sam's, we were just briefly chatting about it, was the intensity of rotation. So I think I always encourage students to take as hard as difficult of rotations prior to midyear, because once you go to midyear, you want to stand out. You want to know what you're talking about. So you want to have oh yeah, I did my ICU rotation, I did my infectious disease rotation, and you have all this knowledge that you can just like dump out. But there's cons to that, and I think Sam pointed them out. One of them is like, you know,
Right, even though when you start doing all of that and then you get to that month of December, November, and let's say you're on that challenging rotation, and now you're trying to put together your portfolio, your CV, and then you're expected to be maybe in the ICU or in the hospital or whatever you're doing, and it becomes more difficult. And then sometimes, depending on where you are, they might have different expectations, even through Midyear, about what you're supposed to be doing. So just knowing where you are and again understanding the expectations is super key, even before you even schedule that rotation, because again, it might make that Midyear experience more enjoyable or actually more chaotic, because you know what you got to come back to when you get back to your rotation.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna talk about one last thing, and we'll probably wrap up the video, and it's about letters of rec. You know, kind of open topic here. What about rotations and letter of recs would you guys want to make comments or tips about?
Don't play yourself. Don't play yourself.
All right.
Because there's so many people that might do a so decent type of job, and at the end they go to the preceptor and say, you know, can you write me a letter of rec? And you're like, I don't know if I'm the best person to write this letter for you. And they keep on persisting. No, I need you to write me a letter of recommendation, please. And then they write a letter, and it's the truth. You know, like, you know, didn't show up on time, kind of shows effort, but not all the time. And then you're applying for residencies and jobs, and they're all like, well, these letters are very weak, so you know, why would we want to consider this candidate? So don't play yourself, you know.
Right. I think that's very important that you say that. Definitely don't play yourself, because when you go to ask someone to write you a letter of recommendation, there is a checkbox that you sign that waives your right to see what they write. So if you really don't feel in your heart that they're not going to write you a good letter of recommendation, don't ask them. Like, go to someone that you can confidently say, oh, this person's going to endorse me 100. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
You know what's hard? Thinking about it now, it's like it's almost like obvious to not ask people that when they're like, I don't know. You know, you should be able to sense that, but maybe like those individuals just don't have that emotional intelligence to realize that, right? Sometimes it may be hard. It's like, why would someone persist on asking someone over and over again? But with that said, I think something that makes it easier if it's not obvious, because maybe sometimes it's not obvious, you know. Because personally, I think you guys already know. Well, I don't know if Juice knows. I didn't match for my PGY1. I'm pretty sure that one of the reasons why is because I was one of those oblivious students that played himself. I was like,
oh man, so this might
be So I actually changed out my letter of rec during Scramble, because I was like, you know what? I bet you should have but anyways. So on the real, so sometimes when you're not, it might not be obvious, but other times there are obvious ones. So the ones that you should definitely be taking are the ones that at the end of rotation, they're like, hey, you know, the preceptor is sitting down with you and they're like, you know what, you did a really good job on rotations. If you need a letter of rec, you know, I'd be happy to write you one. You know, those are the obvious ones. Right. And those are the ones you definitely should take, because you know they'll write you a good letter of rec. And
just as a quick tip, always get a feeler too about certain preceptors, because you might do an amazing job on a rotation, but then so did everybody else. And so let's say you're applying for a program, and this one preceptor so happens to write 15 letters, you know, and so then the program gets saturated, the hospital or the retail gets saturated with letters from this one person, and guess what? All the letters are sounding the same for everybody. So you're not really helping yourself. So that's a good thing to keep in mind, is that, you know, although you had a good rotation, just make sure that's not the preceptor that says yes to everyone, because then you might get a really generic letter.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then along those lines, you know, a lot of preceptors are writing a lot of letters of rec. Make sure to thank them.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's huge.
Send them a little gift. You have no, you know, send them a card.
Major key
card. Yeah.
Major keys.
Be nice to your preceptors. You know? They appreciate that, especially when it comes around for like jobs.
Oh yeah.
Other things like that. All right. Any last minute tips or things about rotations, transitioning from P3, P4 that you guys got?
I would say, now remember, this is your last year of pharmacy school. No more didactics, really. You're going into your rotations. Embrace it. Soak it up. Have the best time. But also learn, make sure that, like Sam said in the beginning, that it is an interview. Every rotation is an interview, so just do your best and you'll do great.
Absolutely.
Haircuts every 2 weeks. You gotta look good.
Keep it tight.
I may have looked a little rough. Yeah, on my P3 year, I'm not gonna lie.
It's a rough year. It could be a rough year. All right, guys. So we're gonna wrap up the video here.
So just make sure that you like.
Make sure you comment.
And make sure you hit that subscribe button. Get him to 1K.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Hey.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in and watching the video. If you like the content, definitely hit the Impro RX button over to your left to subscribe, and definitely check out more videos over here to your right. Now, as always, if you have questions, comments, and even better, suggestions for future videos, definitely let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, until next time, guys.